Journalists among those killed as protesting Haitians demand the removal of President Jovenel Moïse. And in sport, the rained-out World Cup match against South Africa, a disappointment for West Indies. I'm Ricardo Roberts, and this is Caribbean in 10 for Tuesday, June 11, 2019. I'll be back with the details after the break. We begin in Haiti, where a popular radio journalist was shot and killed late last night as protesters continued to demand the removal of President Jovenel Moïse over allegations of misuse of funds associated with PetroCaribe. Police confirmed that Rospidi Petillon, who worked for Radio Sans Fin, was fatally shot in the capital. Director General of the Ministry of Communications, Calvin Cadet, has called for protection of journalists, as he also condemned the attack against another radio station and a reporter who works for the state-owned TV station. Protesters have been blocking roads with burning tires, and yesterday they set fire to vehicles belonging to a radio station. They also chased down a presidential police backup unit they accused of firing on a crowd and killing a motorcyclist. The radical opposition Democratic and Popular, which is among those organizing the demonstrations, said that since Sunday, at least 7 people have been killed, 147 wounded, and 70 arrested. But the police have said only 2 people were killed, 4 others were wounded, and there were 12 arrests as a result of the protest that followed the release of the report of the Superior Court of Accounts and Administrative Litigation on the management of projects financed by PetroCaribe. Now, that audit found significant shortcomings associated with the planning and implementation of development programs and projects funded by the PetroCaribe Fund. The Caribbean Court of Justice, the CCJ, will next Tuesday say whether or not it will reverse a Guyana Court of Appeal ruling that invalidated the no-confidence motion passed against the government in December last year. Informed sources told CMC News that the CCJ, which is Guyana's final court, has set June 18th as the date to deliver judgment in the challenge brought by opposition leader Barrett Jagdeo. Now, Jagdeo's appeal was among 3 matters consolidated by the CCJ regarding the no-confidence vote. The other cases were to determine whether or not a majority of 34 votes were needed to ensure the success of the motion in the 65-member National Assembly, whether the coalition government had a 1-seat majority, and whether President David Granger and his government should have resigned and allowed for fresh regional and general elections within 90 days of the passage of the motion on December 21st, 2018. When the government challenged the outcome of the no-confidence vote, the High Court ruled that 33 votes were required for the motion to pass, and it ruled that the motion was valid, but the Court of Appeal subsequently held that 34 and not 33 votes constituted an absolute majority. Trinidad and Tobago's main opposition, United National Congress, says it's prepared to take legal action to challenge government's planned amendments to the Freedom of Information Act. Now, the government had said it would start debate on the amendment to Clause 7 of the Act that would allow for, among other measures, an increase in the time given to state entities to provide information to the public from 30 to 90 days. But opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar made it clear that if the amendments are passed, they will be challenged in court. She accused the government of wanting to hide information in an election year. Prasad Bisesa said she had reviewed freedom of information legislation in 125 other countries, and they all had a reply time of 20 to 35 days. Attorney Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj, who served as AG in a former UNC administration, says he will pursue both legal and public campaigns to ensure the amendments are not made into law. He said government's proposed changes to the legislation would hinder the public from accessing information under the Act.
That the effect of these amendments can nullify the provisions of this Act, can make the Act a totally useless utility for people to get information, because it would discourage, it would delay, and people would be frustrated to take steps under the Act to get the information.
And stay with us, your Midday Sport is next.
Welcome to this year's 50th Caribbean Broadcast Union Assembly on the island of San Andres. San Andres is a small archipelago located in between Jamaica and Panama in the western Caribbean Sea. A lush, exotic island rich in culture, history, gastronomy, and breathtaking scenic views. Known for its beaches and 7-colored crystalline waters, the island of San Andres will be proudly hosting this year's event. CBU members will enjoy top-of-the-line accommodations for an unforgettable experience in San Andres, connecting Caribbean nations through this year's 50th edition of the CBU Assembly.
West Indies head coach Floyd Reefer believes yesterday's abandoned World Cup encounter with South Africa was a missed opportunity to take advantage of the side's current poor run of form in the tournament. The Proteas entered the contest on the back of 3 successive defeats and under heavy pressure of expectations to turn around their failing campaign. And sent in at the Rose Bowl, they were tottering on 29-2 in the 8th over before rain intervened and eventually forced no result.
Yeah, we were looking forward to the game, especially the start that we had in the game, and planning for the game last night. We were really looking forward to this game after they lost the first 3 games, so their confidence as a team will be a bit low. So we wanted to take a big advantage of that. But like I said, it's the weather. It's England. 90% rain today, so there's nothing we can do about it. We just have to, take the 1 point, like I said before, and look forward to the.
The Caribbean side has used their fast bowling attack to good effect in the tournament, blasting out Pakistan in their opening game in Nottingham before also having Australia on the run in their second game last Thursday at the same venue before tasting defeat. And Reefer said with the current confidence in the camp, there was no opponent the West Indies feared.
The way that we're playing cricket, we're playing fearless cricket, so it doesn't matter who we play. When we play them, we want to play the same brand of cricket that we're playing and what we executed, in the past couple of games.
Staying with cricket, the Windward Islands have named a 14-man squad for this year's edition of the 50 overs regional under-17 tournament. Former West Indies youth wicketkeeper Akeem August is among 5 St. Lucians returning to the Windward Islands team. He led St. Lucia to the Windward Islands under-15 crown in 2017. The other St. Lucians on the squad will include Unel Preville and Kibal Thomas. That's Caribbean in 10. Good afternoon.